Yeah. Um, all right.
This is another beautiful day. We want to welcome you to yet another important edition on our series, The Nigerian Affairs. As we have advertised over the week, today we'll be discussing uh, social media regulations in relation to our country, Nigeria. If you follow the news, especially the last month, you know that one of the trending topical issues in Nigeria being discussed has to do with in relation to protection from the internet falsehood and manipulation bill, a bill sponsored by one of the Nigerian honorables, a senator, and the bill has gone through second reading. Uh, as academics, as scholars, as researchers, as people who are actually involved in this part of engagement, we deem it fit that we shouldn't just allow this topic to go without putting our own informed opinion on how the bill is going in will be deliberated, what especially is being uh, expected of the government, what is expected of the people. We want to discuss everything in relation to the bill. In whose interest is internet regulation, especially social media regulation in Nigeria. Also joining me, as you will be knowing in the course of this, discussion, is Damilola Adegoke. You know him already, and this is, him here with me. Try to, put some things also together to make sure that we have a age-free discussion on this program. What do you have to say?
I would want to start by saying that first, let me uh, quickly send this to our audience so that they can join us and participate in the live stream. Um, Sorry, hold on just a minute. I'm going to respond in a while. Okay. Stream. Yeah. Okay. Yes. I will start by saying that it's been a very interesting week in Nigeria in the past few days
Yeah.
because of the kind of things that the noise that it has generated, some of the discussion around social media bill,
Yeah.
and sorry, the anti-hate speech bill.
Exactly.
But I think one thing that we must understand is that this is not the first time that such issue has been muted.
Okay.
I mean, muted by several interested parties
Yeah.
in the Nigerian polity.
Yeah.
The other time it was the social media bill. At a point, it was the NGO bill. But this time around, it's coming at a particular
Yes,
time
sorry.
when everybody's talking about fake information, misinformation, and it's becoming a kind of discourses around the globe. And it's not only peculiar to Nigeria, but I think it's also something that is common, especially in most developing countries these days, with government trying to control the social media space.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so this is something that is worth discussing today also. So and then I think that it is very important that we look at this from a kind of, I won't say totally disinterested perspective,
Yeah.
but as somebody who is as people who are, I don't want to use the word expert, but I think I can, if you permit me to use that, so
Yeah.
to some sort,
Yeah.
To provide a kind of informed opinion, and not just Bodija market kind of arguments that people
Yeah.
embark upon.
Yeah.
So we have to look at both sides of what are people saying and how are they saying it, and then let's also look at it from our own areas of expertise.
Okay.
So that is what I would want us. I just want to provide that kind of foundation now, so that along the discussion
Yeah.
we'll talk more.
Before we look at the topic itself, internet manipulation, hate speech, I really want us to, try as much as possible to identify the three. let me just say all the spheres in the discussion when it comes to internet governance. We have the government on one side, we have the tech companies on one side, and then also we have the public. So how do we situate this discussion?
In most, I like using the word in most serious places, but many people have criticized me for saying that. So, but in some countries of the world with a more developed democracy, Western kind of democracy that we operate, you can't dissociate between the public and the government. Like there's a kind of synergy between the various facets of society. Whether it's government, laws emanate generally from the people. From they listen to people, they are policymakers. They consult with civil servants who are expected to provide policy.
So are you giving me a kind of background to law enactment? How naturally law should evolve?
In a way, I think that is also, in fact, it's a significant part of it. How it should work, how it ought to work. That's what I'm saying. And that is some place. Look at the issue of hate speech. Let me also hate speech. Some of the laws going on around the Cambridge Analytica issue in the UK and some parts of in America. You could see how journalists, how policymakers, how think tanks were consulted, and then they even invited people, open public, to the Senate congressional hearing. Those who are affected by technology provide informed opinion. Not some people who just woke up someday, pick up a document from Singapore or what have you, and just one or two things, and then plagiarize totally, copy and paste and plagiarize, and then provide that to the public as a law, like trying to tell people that it's a kind of paternalistic thing that we know how you should feel. And this is what is happening in other countries, regardless of their political peculiarity. You just have to follow this and obey this particular thing. And this are law. And we don't even care what the public has to say. Nobody was consulted. The union were not consulted. The youths who are more conversant with some of these things were not consulted. Social media personalities, social media technologies, even those who work, experts, professors in universities, who should provide informed opinion around these things. People talk about hate speech when they are not even media psychologists. They don't even understand how this thing. You are more an expert in this area. How this thing, they just mouth opinion and then continue to do that to their own advantage. If we look at the way, the way and manner in which they've already couched this issue, you would understand clearly. It's about elite interest. It's about providing. You could hear the wife of the president saying things like, "Oh, people just wake up and start talking about the president getting another wife," and they said the vice president has resigned, and a lot of people, you could see that it's mainly about their own elitist interest. So it's not about anybody, because they have not really been able to come up with any research that has suggested that we have mass cases of people committing atrocity because of hate speech. So I will pause here because you should be able to provide us. Yes. On this. Is there really a kind of I'm asking now. Is there really a kind of correlation, because it has been much touted? You hear people say, "Oh, Rwanda, genocide in Rwanda." That's one of their go-to points. Social media has caused hatred and can lead to genocide. Is there any correlation like that? I think that should be one thing that
we can't dispute the power of the media in totality, whether it's social media, whether it's mainstream legacy media, but by the time we are arrogating importance or too much power to media, we go back to the era of of the 1940s, and then during the Second World War, the Goebbels, and then we go back to that era, and we begin to give too much agency to media without looking into some contextual nuances, and some other factors surrounding media effects. So your question is very important, but I wouldn't say there are no significant impacts from media, social media, for instance, given this multimedia nature, given its synchronicity, given its different affordances. But having said that, we should be very careful in arrogating too much power and agency. There are limited power to how people should, the effect of power. I mean, the effect of social media. They are limited in the sense that we cannot actually say that from all indication, we point to the Rwanda, for instance. People want to say that it was because of the radio Rwanda, that FM broadcast that led to. It could be a contributing factor, but never can be. It's it's the uniform or the own unilateral power that led to that incident. But the same thing goes. We don't want to be go back to the silver bullet theory. The hypodermic needle theory, where you have all the power ascribed to the media, and you see media messages like a bullet, so that when you fired it, palm. It doesn't work like that. If you look at the Nigerian instance, for instance, how many years have we spent since the advent of the internet? Let's just say mid-90s to now. What can we point out to be some of the kinetic, negative kinetic impact of social media messages or whatever? There are issues that will come up.
Yes.
When TV became 24 hours, people were so scared. Yes. During the era of radio, people were also so scared. Yeah. But so some of this thing we see with social media, you can also say it's because of this newness and its rapidity. It evolves very quickly, and it affects us in a dynamic way. So, but I will not say we should add too much power to some of these things. And as you have rightly said, there are issues with the elite when it comes to the public, or the other harm of the populace, sharing some kind of power, in the use of certain exclusive technology. Yes. Also control. Yeah. So social media has now created another site of power struggle, the power context situation. You remember, I'll bring your mind back to one of the Nigerian elites, during the military era, who eventually evolved to be a Senate leader, some time ago, who said that the telephone is not for the poor. It's not for the poor. It's another way. It's another thing. It's evolving into another form right now. Yes. People now have power to say what they like. But to the elite and to people in government, it's like a power tussle. It's like a power context going on. Yes. So with this, if you bring in the tech people, now we have like two elephants. And then with the people at the grasses now, we have been trampled upon. The tech people are business conscious. They have business interests to protest. The bloggers, even with the tech giants, the Facebook, the Twitter, the Instagram owners, they are they form a block. Yes. In this part of in this internet governance, and then of course the government who recognize their own potential as the power wager who wants to control the media space, and now you have a corporate company so powerful and rich, also in that particular game now. So there is this power tussle between the government and the corporate world, and also between the people who also are looking forward to a way to find another alternative to express their. So that's the problem we have now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and in a way, I also I think I am already attuned with some of the things that you have raised, because I think the area of that power thing is something that should be a little bit, we should throw more light on that. Maybe I should re-emphasize that. Really. When we look at the way, like for instance, the way and manner in which these conversations and discourses around this internet control, internet governance has been, it has always been a way that let us find a way, just like the way governments have control spectrum on in radio spectrum and TV spectrum, where they have sole license and they can control, they can sort of switch off the whole thing, and then nobody they can switch off the Now the democratization of the internet in a way where the internet afford, where people, although that is contestable anyway, because who are the gatekeepers, how people receive their feeds, who determine what gets to where, it's also it's a subject of serious academic discourses. But for the sake of this particular platform that which we are discussing, which is a public forum, to make things more simpler, it's just that government everywhere, they always like when they talk about control of the media. It's about control of the other, not their own self,
yeah.
but control of the other people
Yeah.
who are like who they see as competitors
So, yeah.
in this space.
Yeah.
Because in a way, when you don't provide when you don't provide resources of information, when information is controlled, decentralized,
Yeah.
There's a bureaucratic processes around information.
Yeah.
People will definitely look for information any other
They
way.
will.
So
Yes,
if you want to control hate speech, you want to control misinformation, you want to control rumors and what have you, you need to provide information.
Yeah.
In a case where we have Freedom of Information Act and only very few states signed it, in Lagos State, for instance, it's going to be a peculiar tax for you to know who is generating, who are the people collecting taxes for Lagos, how much are they collecting, where are this money coming from. So this shady thing around it.
Even with the information for FYB, Act. We still see a lot of issue, problems, coming from whoever wants to get information from the government. Unlike, in a country like the United Kingdom, you have every access to request for information from through government agency. It doesn't cost anything. If it's going to cost, some amount for you to get it, you will know. But in a country like Nigeria, where is the fear factor coming from when it comes to this internet governance, when it comes to social media, manipulation, bill, and what are we afraid of? Where is the real threat?
I think the threat is many people have said, oh, people just make noise on social media, what have you. And my response to them is that if it is not effective and if it's not powerful, government won't seek to control it. You could see the way they have been clamping down on social media activists and all that. This is the fear, because that fear, in a way, for an autocratic system is justifiable, because you need to be able to control how people, the source of information must come from a particular source. There must be an official party line, and that's why we could hear the vice president talking about the wife of the president. Sorry, just a minute.
Yeah. Are we off here? Chat you off here. Okay.
Yeah, the battery for this is off. Yeah, is it on back?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Is the video on?
Yeah, it's coming up. Yeah.
Okay, let me quickly. Sorry for that break in transmission. It's one of those things. If you don't have money for, if you have big giants technology with money to control the space. Okay. Yeah. All right. So.
I will reiterate. I'll put the question back. What I was asking was that where we recognize that there is power, sort of, and there is to some instance the effect of or the impact of social media or the internet, as a technology is real. If it is not real, government wouldn't want to control the space. So now how do we properly put that fear factor? Where do we place it? It's real. We agree that there is that need to, but how do we go about it?
That fear factor, like I said, is justifiable, quite all right. So there's no need for an autocratic system.
Yeah.
But in the democratic sector, it's something that should not it's not palatable, and it's something that should not even be permitted. Yeah. But you see, how we go about that is first, like we were discussing, the issue of information access, where you just don't provide information to people. People will look for alternative. For instance, that you can, in some of these democracies, whether it's Sweden or Switzerland or UK or whatever, you have access to your legislators. You can even go online to see who is making what law. If you go to the Nigerian Senate website and the legislative website, some of these discussion, when you check, they'll just put when you look at the minutes of their proceedings, you will start reading just generic words. You won't know who who actually made what proposition, who voted for what particular aspect of the bill. So it's very vague and opaque. So leadership in Nigeria is couched in mystery, because the idea is that the fear factor, when we are not accessible, they will respect us. And something is not only limited to only the politicians. Even in academic spaces, we've had cases where vice chancellor of some universities have to get student expelled for criticizing their policy on social media. Not once, not twice. So if people who are here could do that, you understand the peculiarity of our leadership perception, their consciousness. So for us to be able to address this issue, first we have to look at where these laws have been. I mean, these social media things, a kind of replica of that, and use that. I'm not saying we should adopt that totally, but since our leaders love to talk about China, other countries, they've done that, we have to also put that into perspective, because those ones reflected in China, for instance, is a communist state. They don't do election the way we do election. And if you steal money, you are shot. You're executed. I mean, but our leaders will cherry pick laws that favors them, and they try to bring that.
Not actually looking into the context.
Even the arrogance is even is there. They don't care. They don't even listen to the masses, because they feel like they don't owe the masses any explanation. But if we are going to do that, first we need to revamp the way our information access. The Minister of Information, if this is the brilliant thing will come about, I'm even surprised. Some of them will go and pick ideas from people and steal the ideas and bastardize it. If this is the best thing to come up with, then I'm disappointed. Because he was saying something like, other countries, they control. It's not about control. They might control technology in a sense whereby, there's various things they look at. One, privacy of people. How the data is being used. These are concerns of people. How it's going to affect their people in general. Not to control what people say. No, you don't have a right to control what people say. There are laws everywhere in the world. If you slander me or you made a libelous statement, you can go to court even anywhere in the world. That is not guaranteed. Not by saying, we're going to shut social media because they questioned Buhari, because they insulted. Even if you look at some of the aspect of this particular bill in question, that if you insult is one of the something they count as social media. Insult is very vague. I mean, I can say you've insulted me. Insult who? Really? So if I insult you as a private citizen, are they going to charge you for it? Or if I insult the president or governor of my state, like it's happening now in Cross River State, where one one of the journalists in Cross River has been arrested for asking how 500 million, about 500 million naira
was appropriated
or misappropriated. So that is it. In fact, the guy was one of something was disturbing the peace, treasonable felony, terrorism, and cultism for asking those questions. So you can see.
So I think one of the problems, we have in putting this law into practice or going about internet governance in Nigeria is the high level of distrust. In governance or government, so to say, it's where people are not, when they can't, see any, clear direction from government, where they cannot trust government with, government that cannot obey rule of law. It will be hard for them to, yield this kind of, power to them to actually safeguard the only means through which they can vent their anger, through which they can discuss without being questioned, through which they can even access some of these highly volatile politicians. You can't see them in their offices. You can't. So the only means through which they can access them, it's the social media right now. So with that, when you are now coming, with laws to regulate it, it means it's as if you are trying to limit, their access and return them back to the slavery era where you don't have a voice. So we need to discuss this issue, and address where the real threats are, and how government, advising government, at this point on we can also ask them, use this medium to advise government on how to go about it. One take from this discussion, from my own side, is that nobody is saying that government should not regulate. There are significant things we could point out, or issues we could point out throughout the world, where social media, have been used, or misused, to foment terror, to recruits in terms terrorists, to carry out terrorism act, and I mean different. There are issues, we understand, but when it comes back to a country like Nigeria, don't you think the space should first be sanitized and government come out clear? Let people respect government before trying to regulate the media.
Like we are, because to just what we have been discussing before, it's the duty, it behoves on the government to respect the citizen. So if we want to be sincere with ourselves, we would say that it's not about, you can control some aspect of the technology, like privacy that will affect. First, it has to be it has to be for the benefit of the citizen. Okay, like your privacy, where are the data stored, are children being affected, cyberbullying, and so on. These are issues that you could address. You can ask this technology to the technology people, those in charge of the big technology, to regulate and moderate how they go about these things. But what our government is concerned about, and which is where they got it wrong, is they are concerned about the speech coming out from them, not the platform, not the privacy of people, not anything. It's about the speech itself. Criticism is what they are really
they recognize that there is power in that, the way people are,
no doubt,
and so they want to regulate what people can say.
Yes, what they should say.
So
what they should say.
Okay.
And then they want to do that, and in a way also try to create a fear factor by arresting one or two people to use them as a sample for that. So I think the bill itself is obnoxious in my own opinion, because it's not even original. They stole it from somewhere, and then they copied the whole thing. They bastardized it.
What about the penalties?
The death penalty is even ridiculous, because I don't think even in Saudi Arabia they are as brazen as that. Because it's so funny. Though, of course, I don't want to use Saudi as an example because it's the case of Khashoggi. But in some other countries that we consider as not too democratic, they won't be that brazen to enact such obnoxious law, where looting can attract few years in prison, but because of what they consider to be insult against the president, tagged as hate speech, you can get sentenced to death. They were even find very ridiculous until they now have to go and want to look for a way to change it in a way. It's outrageous. So what I think is that, not what I think, what I'm proposing is that we should have the discussion should not be for government alone. It should not be. Don't forget that the internet is an horizontal platform. It is not vertical. That's the disruption therein. The disruption that led to this whole thing is the fact that government can no longer dictate what people should do or what people should know. People have a right to get information from anywhere they want to get it from. So what I'm proposing is that this conversation should go to the public. Let people be involved. How we want to go about it. Involve the civil society. Involve the non-governmental organization. Involve people, the public. Be responsible for once. They should talk about all these legislators, senators, not sitting down somewhere and be saying, somebody insulted me one day, another person said this, as childish as that. Even the wife of president, who has no expertise in some of these things, making policy pronouncements, which is an aberration anywhere in the world, where the wife of she was not elected. So she even there was a time she was even saying, there's no pillow in Aso Rock, I can say whatever I like, even insulting even trying to even question or even blame the presidency that they didn't respond to how they should respond. Well, that's their own problem anyway. But in as much as this platform belongs to us, the thing itself is democratic. So the technology itself is democratic and it's participatory. So they should bring in more people to join the discourse. But also, please, let us also not be mindful of the fact that certain elements have abused, because for every technology there will always be an abuse.
Definitely.
If you have a knife for cutting food,
somebody will,
some will use to commit murder.
Exactly.
You don't throw away more knife totally because you feel like a lot of people commit murder with knife.
Exactly.
No, you need to just find a way to moderate people's behavior. Those who are in charge of, especially as gas technology now, those who are supposed to be the gatekeepers, and then look at how to really go about it. There are features even on YouTube that you can use to tag a speech as whatever, not acceptable.
Report it.
So you can report it. So if you feel like somebody is doing that, then but also let's look at the case of IPOP. I don't want to, but let me use IPOP as an instance. That's why, of course, we have a right to the answer sectionist agenda, what have you. But initially, I think they've toned down their rhetorics now.
Yeah.
But initially, the rhetoric was pure hate speech. Let's just not catch it anyway. Using language like cows, calling people animal, and what kind of debasing people just because of, well, however they want to couch it, because I believe that no human being want to be degraded. That is not acceptable.
Yeah.
But what government should have done in that case is to report this to maybe YouTube or this and tell them, okay, Facebook, we don't want this in Nigeria. And they can, that aspect, they can warn them, and then they have a way of doing that. They have shut down a lot of racist group in some part of the world. It's not only, but we should not now use that as an extension. That's just minimal in a way. And again, government should focus, like I said, on providing. There should be providing information. When you look at the website of some of these, let's say government, I went
agencies
to the website of Lamata, for instance. I think it's not Lamata. This waterways, Lagos State waterways, something like they are in charge of their boat services.
Yeah.
Almost nothing there. Just picture of the governor, and then when he commissioned a boat, no service, no information about the service, no information how much you're going to pay, how you can access this thing in the bank. So even if you go to all these university websites, some are already professors, but their profile reads lecturer 1. Some have retired, they are still there. Some have died, they are still there. So it's not updated. They don't. So when people don't have access to information, what if I had gone to a particular website now and reported a particular professor as, let's say, as committing fraud, claiming a type that is not his in the first place, and then maybe I'd gone to the website and what I saw is just lecturer 1, and then he's saying he's a professor. Who is going to blame me for misinformation? When the information I got there, I mean the source of information is
exactly. I think that's just another. We need to we have to devise another topic to really address the issue of how we use means of new means of information, especially email and what have you in Nigeria. I think a report came out sometimes ago about the lack of engagement, the lack of the dysfunctional use of email in Nigeria from the academic point of view. If we open it up into the government and agencies, I want to believe it will be a very serious issue. Government who doesn't agency who doesn't respond to.
You should ask me that. I've experienced that. Even they will send messages to most of these government websites, they won't even respond. They don't have, even the state house website at a point becomes so embarrassing that I think maybe they've corrected that, but I don't know. The Nigerian presidency website. People don't have information. There's no current engagement. Go to the Home Office website and see what they are doing every day. They are updating the something
it's as serious as that.
But I believe people are being paid for this. They have budget in Nigeria for all this IT thing, but I don't know what they are doing because you send message maybe even let's not even go to government. Let's go down to even academics. Well, that's the area we're familiar with. You send messages to website, they are not. Nobody's responding. Nobody's responding, or they choose to respond. I mean, however they want to. So that really breeds a lot of. So even look at newspaper reports. When you read newspaper report, they will report that as at the time of filing this report, when we call them, they said they will get back to us. Or I'm not authorized to speak. You have contacted the PRO of an organization and it's saying I'm not authorized to speak. To speak on what? Why are you not being paid? So they won't get back to you because that's a statement to say I don't want to talk. So and then you expect people not to make congestion. So for you to have, if the information is there really, then people can say they can debunk.
Exactly.
And say no, you are telling us lies. We've gone there. These are the things there. So, but if there are no alternative sources, then the only means available is what people will follow. So the issue of the email is also very important. It's also plays into this, but because of what we are discussing, social media thing, whether it's Twitter, Facebook, and whatever, let's not even go to the fact that we have not even developed our own in a way. So, and it's even ridiculous that our government don't know that you can even beat some of these things they are trying to do.
The platform.
I can create an anonymous character of myself, because by the time you start doing too much, people will now start going underground, and when people start going underground, you create room for people now use for sinister aim, because now you can know this guy has said this, so you can really track the situation to me. But if you now want to clamp down totally on it, I can create alternative this thing and then begin to use that. And how do you regulate that information?
Exactly.
So that's also so I think it's overreaching for them to want to attempt in a way this kind of bill. I think the bill itself is. Well, it has gone through the second reading, and the way the feelers we are getting, though contradictory, but from the behavior of the statement of the wife of the president, it's clear that the presidency has a hand in the bill, special interest in it, really, because the way they have been pushing it, and even the voice, the behavior of even the Minister of Information is attesting to that fact. So they are mixing fake information with hate speech.
Okay.
Misinformation with hate speech. That's another thing that they needed to really look at in a way. They are mixing everything together. Terrorism, hate speech. They are not the same.
I think well, with that I saw something recently online. Government also trying to maybe some people have been discussing the issue, the lack of engagement when it comes to formulation of some of these bills, and in the bid to fill that void, the government officials or whatever, they've been trying to push some agencies to really react in relation to especially social media. And over the week I saw at least about 2 news items coming from CITD and some other institutes trying to trying to come
they mine something
exactly. So in one of those, I think I came across a definition of hate speech from one of them, and it will be very important for me to read this to the world, so that you can have a feel of who are actually informing the government and how hate speech is every form of expression, whether verbal, voice or written, or non-verbal, shaking of hands, patting the back, hugging, pushing, or other kinds of touch, facial expressions, gestures, and eye contact, as well as visual parades, insignia, armbands, headbands, and picket lines that spawns attacks, ridicules, humiliates another on account of his or her nationality, ethnicity, race, religion, gender, sexual orientation, and or disability.
They are just trying to this is nonsense, because they are just trying to make it ambiguous, so pack everything together, the issue of gender issue, so that when you attack one
it's already covered, all encompassing.
So just put everything so that when people want to attack that their own real agenda, it's be as if they are attacking maybe gender issue. Now the issue of hugging, what has hugging got to do with speech? I mean,
they want to cover every aspect of communication.
Saying that when you picket line, when you say something against people,
they say there you go.
So that means you have committed. It's even ridiculous, because even in serious places, that shows you. Let me not use the word, because now that shows us how, the level of the mental acuity of some of the people making these laws, the level of intelligence that some of these people have, their IQ. Permit me to use that word, because if you are saying that hugging, you touch people, that's a speech, that shows that you have not gone to school at all. Because even a child of elementary school age should know the difference between speech and what you act. So if you are saying that, okay, I've gone to a place to picket, that means picketing is also going to be, from that statement, picketing is also going to be a speech. So if you picket a line against a president or a governor, but these people are forgotten that some of these laws they are making will come back to haunt them, because they're not going to be there in perpetuity.
Exactly.
So they're going to leave that place one day, and if their right is being infringed, trampled upon, they will want to go and protest. Just like when people reminded the wife of the president that it was the same social media that people used to defend her when some of the so-called Kaba were trying to embarrass her.
Exactly.
So now it was palatable that time, but now it is no longer so.
It's cherry picking.
Because it's cherry picking. So they pick. So now it's even not even in the time of the military would they make this kind of dumb statements. Even if they want to make their own.
This comes right from the university, from academic space. It's an American University of Nigeria. Was actually doing something. I said it's a peer-to-peer global digital challenge, and then in response to that, one of their campaign spokesperson, that is I wouldn't want to mention name, but was actually the one having come out with different kind of statistics to justify the existence of it. Nobody, I don't think anyone is disputing the fact that there are, and then of course the frequency of whatever you class or you define as hate speech at the point where you are researching the phenomenon.
If anybody is even,
it's quite a debatable.
If anybody is even bold to come out with a statement to define hate speech, his academic credentials is suspect. You understand? His academic credentials are suspect, rather.
You mean
whoever is making that kind of conjecture, because it's not founded in fact. It's like you saying that
every form of expression, whether verbal or voice or written.
That's even in places where people do some of this advanced research.
Yeah.
It's very difficult to define what constitutes hate speech.
Exactly,
It's just like the issue of anti-Semitism and Islamophobia.
Yeah.
Because when you criticize certain cultural nuances, it's very easy for people to hide. If you say something like, let's say, okay, women about rights of women, some people say, Islamophobia, it's against us. So even people have, though some liberal scholars have fallen for that, but some have also criticized that who are in the middle by saying that some of these things they are very difficult. People hide under that. It's my culture. When you speak against genital female FGM, some people say, it's my culture. You are against our culture.
Yeah, exactly.
So at which point are you going to define hate speech? So that person might consider it hate speech because you are criticizing what the person believed to be true, but that thing might be harmful, notwithstanding that fact.
Yeah.
So it's going to be difficult for anybody to come up, or any so-called scholar to come up with a definition and then extend it to mean everything under the sun to mean hate speech. So we must be careful, and I think in a way we must also say that there should also be responsible behavior. But that is a secondary discourse because of our time. Because of our time, we want to take the time too much. So, like, we don't want a situation whereby there should be responsible. You should be responsible for whatever you do. And there are organs of report. If you feel like somebody is going beyond their own limit, you can report them to Facebook or to YouTube. They have offices for that, and with evidence. And then they will be sanctioned. However, though I have problems seriously with that too, because that means that people can just go the Russian way, or the North Korea way, just do it in a way that they will control that. So I think we should. It's something that it's not even something that is subject to serious debate like that. So this particular law, they should go back to the drawing board and whatever. And first of all, throw away this nonsense and come up with something that will include.
Who should they engage? Who should they engage when it comes to Nigeria? Because number one, we've identified that space needs regulation.
Yes.
So who should government engage in reaching a very robust legislation that will capture our contextual background or peculiarities and things like that.
You see, the word regulation, needs regulation is even very problematic because that means that because regulation in Africa, especially in Nigeria, means control. So when you say that, it's like we are lending credence to their whatever they have come up with. Now, the issue is not about regulation in that sense.
Okay.
You can regulate maybe the technology.
Okay.
Like I said, privacy. People, whatever. I'm not removing this point that some people make some nasty statement that could infuriate people, but there are steps to go about that. You can engage, but before you come up with that, just like what if you remember, we submitted some to. I don't want to say that on this channel, but I want to believe that they abuse some of the things that the proposal that we made to their own sinister aim. Because the proposal was that engage all parties. All actors, like civil society, out there, if you come up with concrete plan, call a conference. The communication minister can do that, or information. Where are the professors? We have several departments of whether you call it mass communication or media in Nigeria. Their voices are silent in this. They should be involved. Let them come up with a particular position on that, and then we'll define, how do we want to go about this? Even computer scientists, those who are into IT, those who are those so-called influencers, involve everybody, so that it will not seem like government trying to hide to run away from criticism.
Exactly.
Then you do that. It should not come from the government. It should be driven by the people. So like I've mentioned that, but the place of the academic is very very peculiar here. Those who research, who have worked on it, not somebody who has just been elected, who is so lazy after collecting millions every month, only to go and copy draft. Could not come up with anything original, but to go and copy a law and then try to force it down on the throat of people. That is something that should be resisted totally, because they can come up, if you allow this, they'll come up with another law that will suit their own elitist agenda. So we should have serious things for that, and then the agency. And we shouldn't even want to go into the age of policy, because it's like we don't even have policy maker in Nigeria anymore. All the civil servants, I don't know what they are doing in the various ministries. I don't know what some of them. I don't know whether they are not paid or whether people employ incompetent hands who don't understand what is even going on.
Mm-hmm.
So it should be about that. It should be, so maybe that is one of the things. But we need our own information plan, our own engagement plan, our own social media plan, if that's the case. But that is not to say that we'll not come with a broad law that is vague, that is not definitive enough. I agree that because of our complex nature in Nigeria, the sensitivity of the Nigerian state, people criticizing, making certain assertion, but it's very difficult to even, because they have not come up with any single fact where they can correlate speech with the act, the performance of the act. Speech as an act and the performance itself. How people kill because they can't correlate that. Because if that is the case, then we argue that the statement that the president made about baboon being soaked in blood would also be said to have been responsible for the killing.
I've read people making
post-election violence. But some of us dispute that it may not really necessarily be the case. But even the president will agree with me that it did not mean it that way. So he can't say that. But if that's what he's not trying to say, that means that he is the first person to be charged for hate speech then. If that is the case.
Because we're judging by a lot of,
if I say something and if people say something and then people go and commit that act, it's very difficult for you to prove that it's that act that they've committed that actually led them into that particular, is that act, the speech actually led them to the act. It can be an enabler. It can be an enabler, but it's not really necessarily, you can't really prove it that that's what really caused the exact thing. So it is not something that we have to argue further or back and forth. So the social media bill should be thrown away. They should come up with the anti-hate speech or whatever bill, because it's a masquerade for social media control. It's not about, let's forget about the rhetoric hate speech thing.
So what exactly do you advise the government now? We should throw this one, the one with hanging and heavy fines. They should throw that one and come up with another.
They should throw it. One is it even needed? Because one thing you have to look about some of this law, is it necessary?
Because we have laws already.
We have a lot of laws already. It's not about replication of laws. So is it necessary? For whose interest? So if you say you want to protect, how? Is it by controlling what people say? You can't. You can't. That is not possible.
Still thank.
So even when they say insult, it's even laughable, because when that means that if someone that is selling suya and someone that is selling orange insult each other, they can go to court, and then the other person will sentence to death for that hate speech. If they are saying no, then that means what they are saying is that they only meant those who insult political leaders. Because those are the ones that will really pain them a lot. So and then if people don't have access to justice, and we also must sign the kind of warning, because states that have broken down in the past, they are repressive states. States where people don't have a right to speak. People will always vent out their anger. It's better to allow them to talk. And in case of Nigeria, people will talk with event, they will even forget about it. They can even insult them, they will forget. But by the time you start closing that avenue, you start cutting event, they will start going on that, just like the militancy and what
exactly.
They will start going on that and start doing a lot of things. So I think at this point we have to, because of our time, the battery. So it's been a very unique engagement today. We can't finish this aspect, and we have to bring this issue back again. We will bring this issue back, and try as much as possible to bring people in, invite contributions from people outside. If you have listened to this edition, if you have listened to this particular topic, and you feel you want to add your voice one way or the other, we can still reschedule, even some of our past editions, where we need engagement is the key thing we are trying to look into. So on this note, we'll try to draw the curtain now, and hopefully maybe be back in a few days' time, on another topic, and fine tune our process of engagement. I leave you now, until then, and keep on following us on our other social media handles, and where you get information on how we will be engaging you in the nearest future. So from Molu, say a few words over. Thanks. So we'll hope to see you some other time.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Bye.